Alright, so now that you have your string prints done, what we're going to do now to your string relief base plate is we're going to cover it in some tin foil. So at this point with string relief, you could cover it in tissue paper and paint it, which works really well. You get a nice solid base on which to paint. You could cover it in tin foil, which is what we're going to do. You could leave it as it is if you like the texture. You could paint it in between. So there's quite a few different things that you could do with the string relief. And we're going to put tin foil onto ours, partly because, like I said, in Art Nouveau there was quite a lot of metallic textures, surfaces, materials that were used on the glassware, stained glass, on jewellery, things like that, on pottery. You know, there was quite a lot of kind of metallic aspects to it. So we're going to be using just PVA glue. I've put a bit of water with mine simply because it was quite thick, so you might need to do that if yours is quite thick. If it's really runny, then you're probably okay. And what we need to do is cover the entire thing with the PVA glue first of all, and then we're going to place the foil on top. So don't need to be too particular with this. It will start to pick up, as you can see, the black ink, because like I said, it is water based, so as the PVA has some water in, it will pick that up a little bit. So it's slightly messier than it would be if we hadn't done the string print. Just trying to get the glue into all areas so that when I press the tin foil on, it's got something to adhere to in every area, and therefore we'll get nice sort of distinct edges. I'm going to need to mix some more glue. Just going to grab some more glue. Let's just see. So I'm just using a paintbrush. It's quite a quick task. Takes longer to put the tin foil on than it does to put the glue on, so. Okay, so that's it. I'm going to be using tin foil, and you need your piece to be slightly bigger than your base plate. Okay, and then I'll just scrunch it up. Okay, and then carefully unfold it. And all this does is mean that it almost gives the tinfoil a little bit more stretch before you put it on, because it's got to stretch in between and over all of your pieces of string. If you do it with a nice flat piece of tinfoil, when you start to dig it in, it will break straight away. So this just gives it a little bit more of a stretch. It doesn't really matter which side you use. I quite like to use the matte side that's less shiny, because I feel like then when we define the string you can see that better, whereas on the shiny side it's quite the shiny bit aspect, it can be a bit distracting. So I'm going to use the matte side. We're going to place it on, and I'm going to start in the middle. Now this is the bit that does take quite a lot of patience. Now you have to start to feel for where the string is. You can use paintbrush, so I've got a thinner paintbrush. Obviously you're going to be able to show the most skill here if you can push the tinfoil in and define all of your lines so that your composition is as obvious as it was when you had done it in string relief. It's quite tricky, but essentially all you need to do is kind of press it down in the gaps where it's flat and then define it over the ridges. Like, hopefully you can see that starting to work out here. You can obviously lift it up and have a little look where it's supposed to be so you know what you're doing. And it might be that you need to push the foil together a bit so that you've got enough foil to push down into a gap. You do have to work with care to stop it from tearing. You can use the edge of your nail, is quite handy. Because you should be able to see my design start to come out about here. When you get to an edge, you'll simply be able to fold that over at that edge. I'm just going to need a little bit more foil down here, so I'm just going to pull a bit of foil down just to give me enough foil to define that swirl properly. Okay, so hopefully you can see my design starting to appear. I'm going to switch now to a time lapse where I'm going to finish this off. But that's the general technique. You've got using your finger, you've got using the end of the paintbrush, you've got making sure you've got enough foil, so like bringing the foil together just to give you enough to fit down into the ridges. So I'm going to switch now to the time lapse and show you the rest.